Hello and welcome to ThePrint. My name is Zoya, and in our Great Speeches series, we look at a speech delivered by C. Rajagopalachari, India's last Governor General and a lawyer, statesman and independence activist. On 8 August 1949, at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in then Bombay, Rajaji spoke about the state of higher education in India, its shortcomings, and the urgent need for universities to produce leaders of character. What concerns did Rajaji raise about India's education system? He began by highlighting the overcrowding of colleges and the struggle for admissions. He said, and I quote, "The colleges in India are full to overflowing. At the beginning of every academic year, there is a great scramble for admission, matriculates putting forward claims and counterclaims on all possible grounds, including caste and community." End quote. Despite high enrollment numbers, he noted a troubling gap in quality. Professors, students, members of our parliament, the general public, and various public service commissions are all agreed that the stuff manufactured in the universities is by no means good enough. End quote. Rajaji underscored that true leadership must emerge from universities as democracy depends on competent administrators. He said, "Democracy's claims and all-embracing pretensions notwithstanding, sound leadership is the fundamental of national achievement and it must come from the products of our universities." End quote. He warned that while revolutionary figures occasionally emerge, national progress relies on a steady supply of capable leaders. He said, "We want not one, but thousands of men of character in the thousands of districts throughout the country." End quote. Rajaji lamented the lack of personality development in graduates, stating that universities fail to instill character. The men and women who come out as graduates have to learn everything, and personality has still to be shaped after they obtain employment. End quote. He called this situation unsatisfactory, especially as public service responsibilities had increased dramatically. The most important equipment that a young man must get before he leaves his university is personality, not learning, but character. End quote. Rajaji criticized universities for mirroring societal confusion instead of reforming it. He said, "The function of the universities must be to reform, not to represent society proportionately, but to do something to restore moral values and intellectual orderliness where there is anarchy." End quote. He argued that universities must produce leaders capable of guiding the nation with wisdom and reason. Folly must be replaced by reason. Passion must be put aside in favor of reflection. Ideals must be installed where caprices govern. In fact, principles must prevail, not opportunism. End quote. He expressed concern that young people were being shaped by fleeting ideas from unreliable sources. The young men of today are the sport of random and confused thought that finds expression in ephemeral printed matter of whose undependability even the victims are not unaware. End quote. Rajaji then reflected on India's lost moral compass. He observed that India's ancient Vedantic culture, which once provided discipline and ethical guidance, has been steadily eroded. He said, "Had our philosophy and our culture, which formed the great bulwark which protected India through past ages, been intact, the mischief arising out of the inadequacy of our universities might have been of relative unimportance." End quote. He feared that modern education had discarded this spiritual inheritance without replacing it with anything of equal value. Little of it, I fear, is left now. Otherwise, we should not be witnessing the vast quantity of greed and selfishness that have made the aims of our national government so difficult of achievement. End quote. He strongly asserted that all learning must contribute to personality development. All learning should develop personality, otherwise it is worthless in every sense. End quote. He believed that subjects like science, economics, history, and law could help shape leaders if personality development was given due importance. Acknowledging the difficulty of incorporating moral education, Rajaji proposed an indirect approach. We cannot get the right type of personalities to live and move among the youth gathered in the universities, whose very lives and deportment, without direct instruction or the compulsion of discipline, would be an inspiration. End quote. He cautioned against inaction due to the fear of religious bias in education and said, "The crisis is far too real and grave. We cannot take a simple negative attitude on account of our hesitations." End quote. His solution was to create opportunities for students to study various religions and philosophies. He said, "Let our boys be encouraged to interest themselves in the literatures of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and the classics of Greece and Rome. Then, without being asked to do so, they will recapture the Vedanta for themselves." End quote. He shared a personal anecdote about how reading sacred texts from different traditions deepened his understanding of Vedanta. "I read Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress and chapters in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. Later, I acquainted myself with the thoughts of Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, and Brother Lawrence. And although no one incited me to it, the joy and reverence which these things induced turned me towards the Upanishads, the Gita, and the Mahabharata." End quote. Rajaji concluded by advocating for an inclusive approach to spiritual and moral education. Not by total exclusion from all religious and spiritual thought, but by an all-embracing acquaintance with and appreciation of spiritual thought of all kinds, shall we be safe and shape ourselves properly. End quote. Thank you for listening. For more from The Print, become a subscriber at theprint.in/subscribe. I'm Zoya in Delhi. Tune in every day for more insightful news and analysis.